And it is the Saturday Coffee Klatch with Heather Lofthouse and yours truly, Robert Reich. Heather, good morning.
Good morning to you.
What do we have on deck today?
Today we have Justice Alito's upside-down flag.
We
have the GOP going to the trial. We have Republican donors winning at capitalism. And billionaires behaving badly.
Sounds like the same story over and over, different versions of it. And let's talk about the flag, the upside-down flag. What is this? Alito, Justice Alito put up an upside-down flag outside his home.
When, though? January 17, 2021.
Now, this is right after, obviously, the riot, the Trump-induced riot. But why is the story coming out now?
I have the same question. I mean, it seems like based on the New York Times article I read, and you read, and so many people read, the court seems to have known about this. The neighbors clearly knew about it. I don't know. Why has it been squelched for 3 years?
Well, also, obviously, why did he do it? I mean, an upside-down flag means, in this day and age, means you're a Trumper, right?
Definitely. And at that exact time, it meant stop the steal. We don't believe in the peaceful transfer of power.
Now, we've talked a lot about justice. Well, I mean, we know the justices are not completely neutral, but what's the? I mean, Alito is a Republican appointee, but how can he possibly justify putting up a flag, which is the whole point of putting up a flag is to signal something. I mean, you don't put up a flag, in your living room.
Right.
You put it up outside to tell your neighbors and friends and everybody else going by in the car something.
Yeah.
And that is Trump is right. What is going on here?
He claimed, I had nothing to do with the flag. My wife put it up, and it was in response to a neighbor.
This sounds strangely like another justice we know about.
I know.
Who says, it wasn't me, it was my wife.
But is that some kind of spousal privilege? What is that?
No, but there's a distinction between what, Jenny Thomas, arguably, Clarence can say, well, she's her independent person. She can do what she wants. But when you put a flag in front of your house, it sort of implicates the household.
Also, there's a flag code.
There is.
There is a flag code.
Oh, there's in the laws, in
yes.
the United States Code. Yeah.
Right. So finally there's been a code that's been somewhat adopted for the Supreme Court, right? But back in 2021, I think 2021, there was no ethics code. But you'd think we'd follow the flag code, at least, that says you only put up a flag in the correct direction. If you ever do an upside-down flag, it's distress or something else.
But you're a justice of the Supreme Court.
Right.
One of your most important responsibilities is to make sure people know that you are neutral, that you are nonpartisan, that you don't have opinions and views. This is right before they were taking votes on all sorts of matters that are related to what happened on January 6th.
It doesn't feel very impartial.
I was a clerk, not for the Supreme Court, for the Court of Appeals, First Circuit, the Chief Justice of the First Circuit, and when Archibald Cox was sacked by the Republicans, by Robert Bork and the Republicans, because he was basically a special prosecutor, I put up on my bumper, I had a bumper sticker, and I put on my bumper sticker, remember, I'm a clerk of the First Circuit Court. I just put up a bumper sticker, impeach the Cox sacker. I thought it was pretty neutral.
Did you get in trouble for it?
Yes. I mean, the whole court said you can't do that. You've got to cover that up. That's.
And you were just a clerk.
It's not only disgusting, but it's partisan. It's
right.
partisan. When you are part of the court system, you cannot take a partisan side in a public display way.
How did it feel to hear that? Did you feel?
I felt a little bit, what about my free speech? And then I was a little embarrassed.
Right.
Quite honestly.
Do you think Alito's embarrassed about
I
the
don't
flag
think
situation?
he has any shame at all. I mean, how many months later, it was a year and a half later that the Dobbs decision, he authored the Dobbs decision. I think he's got to explain this, doesn't he? Doesn't this violate the new code of ethics of the court?
One would think, but it's so scary. It feels like they just have power for days.
Well, it feels like they don't care.
Well, that too.
And they don't feel that they are in any way obligated to justify whatever they do.
Right. It's very scary. But it is interesting that it's only just now coming out.
Yeah, I don't understand that. And what else is going to be coming out? I mean, with Clarence Thomas, is there going to be more with Clarence Thomas
There's
and
gotta
his
be.
and the money that he's making? And I just, John Roberts, one of the duties of a Chief Justice is to maintain the integrity of the court and the way the people view it, and ride roughshod over any justice who's doing anything that in any way denigrates the court. John Roberts has not done anything. I mean, this little ethics thing is a
Right.
joke.
Right.
As a result, the public's view of the court,
Oh,
the last
it's
time I
dismal.
looked, was lower than it's been at any time since the mid 20th century,
And
since
how
the
are
early
the-
part of the 20th century.
Which is not surprising. Upside down flags.
It's not surprising, but I have to admit that this one does surprise me.
Yeah, it's pretty egregious. Ugh. Well, we'll see. More will be revealed because it only just came out yesterday or the night before, whenever it was.
Outrageous.
It's so
Outrageous. Outrageous. Sam, Alito, will you explain what you just did, or what you did 2 years ago, or what you say your wife did, and why you're not implicated?
I hope he listens to you. Okay, so then we should talk about the Trump trial. Michael Cohen, all week.
Well, the trial goes on and on and on. And interesting, thank goodness it's not televised.
That's what I think too. I mean, it's nice to be able to, in this day and age, I mean, you have the little court sketches and you get to read the articles about it, but you don't have to watch it. You can kind of use your imagination and we don't have to watch, and Trump doesn't have the privilege of being on camera.
But Heather, the other thing, I was thinking about this particular trial, this election interference hush money trial, and everybody involved. From David Pecker, the head of the publisher of the National Enquirer, through Stormy Daniels. There's something kind of tawdry about it. It's kind of the moral squalor of the Trump crowd. I mean, they're not part of the Trump. They're all part of the Trump crowd. They're all influenced by the same things that Trump is influenced. Everybody is out to make money. Everybody's out to screw everybody else. Everybody is out to, even Stormy Daniels. What does she do as soon as Trump is running for president? She says she's shopping the story around.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is David Pecker doing? He is trying to repress stories and get chits that he can use with Donald Trump later on. And what is what the fixer doing? He's trying to fix things by paying people off. And what is Donald Trump doing? He's saying pay them off. I mean, it's kind of human. People don't treat each other this way in real life, do they?
I mean, this is real life, right? But
No,
one
but
would
most
hope.
people don't. I mean, we're guided by norms and rules. I don't mean to sound naive. I mean, I've been in Washington. I've been
Right.
around powerful people. I've seen some pretty bad things. But this is sort of, we're taking for granted that this is the code of conduct, and it's not a code of conduct.
Right.
There's no standard
Right.
of decency here at all.
Right. Everything is so transactional. It's all normalized as, of course, this is how things go. You have a bully for hire. You have, everyone's looking for money.
Everything's for sale.
Yep.
And it's all transactional. There's no relation. There's no friendship. There's no loyalty. There's no honor. There's no integrity.
I know. And then, of course, the GOP, the bonkers GOP. So we have Speaker Mike Johnson goes to New York to attend the trial, a bunch of people from the House. What is happening?
And this again, it has to do with the Trump's tendency. I mean, he's actually made the entire GOP, the entire American populace, into this us them game. Worse than a game. I mean, it's either us or it's them.
Yeah.
And Speaker Johnson is there because he wants to show that he's one of the Trumpers. And
Allegiance.
yeah, well, it's undermining the integrity of the court, for one thing. It does exactly what Alito did in a different way. It's just basically saying there is no neutrality.
Right.
We're all on one side or we're on the other side.
I know. Can we talk a little bit about the economy, the market this week, consumer protection? There was one case where the CFPB, the Consumer
actually,
Financial Protection Bureau, right?
This
was
is
upheld.
this is a good corrective to what I just said.
Okay.
Because Justice Thomas wrote the opinion. It was a 7-2 opinion.
Mm-hmm.
7 justices to 2 outliers. And the 7 justices said that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau should be protected. It's not illegal. The allegation was that the source of funding, because it didn't come directly from Congress, violated the Constitution. And Thomas, I think, in a very responsible opinion. Did I just say that about Thomas?
You did.
Never quote me.
Yeah.
He did have a responsible opinion. He said, look, there's nothing in the Constitution that says exactly where the funds should come from, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau should remain. Elizabeth Warren was out there after the opinion saying, great. I think it was not only the right decision, but it did sort of make me feel like maybe there is some integrity, a little bit left.
Well, and then we whittled that away.
Well,
it was days later.
It was whittled.
New York Times. But yeah, so that is a win for consumers. But in terms of the other news of the week, we had some losses, I would say. So the Biden administration has tried to fight junk fees. It's tried to fight hidden fees, that are that big banks put in there in terms of late fees and these airline fees.
If I can just stop you, because I want to make sure that we're all together on what these fees are.
Yes.
These are fees that people don't anticipate they're going to have to pay. I mean, I just I did a rental car just a couple of days ago.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And there, I had a price quoted to me.
Yeah.
Like we all do.
$29 a day.
That's right.
Until it's $400 a day.
I actually took my car back after renting it for 2 days, and it was all these fees that I'd never agreed to.
Yep.
That are, but you see it with hotels, you see it with all kinds of places.
Banks,
and the
right.
banks especially. Credit card fees, they don't tell you how much you're going to have to pay, or it's in such tiny little print nobody even pays attention.
Yep.
And so I think that the administration, the Biden administration, has appropriately tried to hit back on these fees, these junk fees. And the banks, of course, say, don't do that.
Yeah.
You're interfering in capitalism.
Right, exactly. And is there a link between big banks and politics?
Well, here we get back to the fundamental problem, Heather, and I go on and on about this, and you're very good to to hear me out. But as long as you've got big money dominating politics, and big money is more and more. I mean, it's from the big corporations and the big banks and the richest people in America. That money is influencing, inevitably, the outcomes of our politics. I mean, if that's not corruption and bribery, and people know that.
Yep.
And it really started in a very big way with the financial crisis of 2008, where the banks got bailed out, and millions of homeowners lost their homes, and they lost their jobs, and they lost their savings. And people said, this system stinks. It's rigged.
Yeah.
And we're still living with that. And as more and more money comes into the system from the big banks and the richest people, well, I can understand why some people will throw up their hands and say, I'm going to vote for Trump because yes, he's anti-democracy, but so is the system right now. At least he's on my side.
I know it. And so he got a day off of court yesterday, of course, to attend his son's graduation. Oh, but also throw a gigantic fundraiser.
So his excuse from court was he wanted to attend his son's graduation,
Who
but
did not go to Trump University, by the way.
Oh, that's really.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was a miss.
Did he not get in?
Probably. Oh, that's funny.
Anyway,
now the one other thing that I read this week too is it's cheaper in some instances to fly to Europe to see Taylor Swift than it is to see her in America.
Okay, well this goes right with the junk fees, because you've got these scalper systems.
The secondary market, right?
Yes, and it is driving costs through the roof. And they're getting together, Live Nation and Ticketmaster. So it's the scalping industry is consolidating, making it even less competitive, and people are paying through their nose in the United States.
Oh yeah, apparently for her concert in Miami, tickets on StubHub were going between $2,000 and $8,000. I mean, you can fly to Paris.
And it doesn't, but it
Get a
doesn't go
hotel.
to Taylor Swift.
Bingo.
It goes to the scalping industry,
Yep.
to Live Nation and to Ticketmaster. And that's why the Biden administration is trying to break them up,
Yep.
why it is so important to, and this is just like the junk fees.
Yep.
I mean, in other words, you can have capitalism that works for regular people or capitalism that works for the CEOs and the biggest shareholders. And the choice of capitalism is very important.
Right.
It's not capitalism or socialism. The pragmatic choice is between a capitalism that is on the side of consumers and workers or a capitalism that's on the side of the people who are the richest people in the world.
Right. And the Biden administration is trying to make good for consumers, right? And that's what they do in the EU.
And workers.
And workers.
And
yep.
consumers are workers, workers are
Yep.
consumers. And, the bottom 2/3, 3/4 of Americans by income
Yep.
are getting shafted.
Yep.
And they've been shafted for years.
I know.
But the Biden administration is the first administration in
Yep.
years that is actually trying to change the rules of capitalism to make sure that working people and poor people and lower middle class people get a better deal.
Right. Now, I might have gone down a little rabbit hole.
No.
I mean, seriously,
No.
Googling consumer protection. So it first appeared in Hammurabi's Code.
I remember I was there.
Were you
Yes,
back in
yes.
Mesopotamia?
Hammurabi actually was a very nice man.
Was
had
he?
he had
Kind.
a good sense of humor, and he was kind, but a lousy politician.
Was he? Well, so, but really, consumer protection has been around a long time. It's mentioned in the Old Testament. It was mentioned by
Adam Smith.
Exactly, Wealth of Nations. We've taken our political economy courses. But so, I mean, this is what should be happening. But of course, the airlines are suing the Biden administration. The big banks are coming at them.
Well, again, during the Franklin D. Roosevelt administration, you had the same forces, the big banks and the corporations were trying to come down. FDR was trying, he was trying to do Social Security and all
Yep.
kinds of things that were going to cost money and that were going to also regulate the stock market, and they didn't like it.
Yep.
And in 1936, in the campaign of 36, Roosevelt said, "My enemies, they hate me, and I welcome their hatred."
Yes.
Well, they're still at it, but they're at it with even more money.
Right.
I mean, the Supreme Court opened the floodgates
Right.
with Citizens United, and
I think it needs to be changed. The quote is changed too. I welcome their money.
that's right. They hate me, and I'm going to welcome their money.
Well, if for the right price tag.
Well, this gets back to Alito and Thomas again. I mean, they are the worst. I mean, the Trump appointees are not much better, but the six of them, including John Roberts, are really dragging us back to the pre-New Deal. That's what they're trying to do.
I know, in so many ways. Yeah. Okay. So in this week, we saw billionaires behaving badly.
Joe Hammurabi. I was trying to remember his first name.
Stop. Imagine if it was for Joe. I mean, Joseph is how I knew.
Joseph Hammurabi.
Yeah.
Joe Hammurabi. We called him Jay.
JH.
Yeah.
Love that guy. But so you saw that Tesla doesn't take out many ads, but has decided to take out some ads to put in front of its shareholders. Tell us more about that. Did you see it?
You remember the Delaware court last year. Delaware court said no to this gigantic, 56 or 57 $billion agreement with Elon Musk, and said that it's not fair to the shareholders
executive
of
package.
Tesla.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's beyond belief. And the Delaware court, which is basically America's corporate court.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I mean,
Most companies are incorporated
most companies are
there.
incorporated there because the courts are so
for 'em.
favorable.
Right.
And the Delaware court said, no, even this is too much for us. And you've got to do it again. In fact, it's no. So Elon Musk takes the company out of Delaware, and he gets the board of directors who he controls completely.
Right.
His brother's on it. The Rupert Murdoch's son is on it. And he says to the board of directors of Tesla, I want this. I really want this. This is mine. I deserve it. And the head of the board of directors sends out a message to all the shareholders saying, isn't it unfair what's happened to Elon? I mean, he's been working and he doesn't even, and the Delaware court threw out his $58 billion, and we've got to vote again. And now they are using shareholder money to promote Elon Musk's bizarre $58 billion.
His agenda.
I mean, there's something wrong here.
There's something very wrong here. And it's the CEOs who are just at the top. Oh, in good news, there was a win for Apple. They're going to go on strike. The Apple workers had a good win.
I think Apple is ripe.
Oh, hello.
For not only workers, but also consumers and antitrusters.
Yep.
I mean, Apple is, Apple has been sending more and more of its profits to its CEOs, top executives, and shareholders through stock buybacks.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
70%.
Over $100 billion.
Yeah, 70% of all the profits. I mean, more than they're spending on research and development. So, and Apple is just, it's getting too big.
Yeah.
It's pushing itself around. It's pushing everybody else around, consumers, workers. So it's time.
Yeah, it's time. So, our final note of the week. There is an anniversary, 20 years ago, marriage equality.
Yes.
Got a win in Massachusetts, but the neat story that I like to think about is you in 2002?
Through 2002.
Tell us what you said about marriage equality and what you
2002. Hello.
Yeah.
I ran for governor of Massachusetts in 2002.
How'd it go?
I didn't win. I didn't even get it. I mean, I had lost the primary. There were 6 of us running in the primary. I came in second.
Ooh.
If I had come in first, I would have taken on Mitt Romney for governor.
Wow, that would have been
I
good.
would have whipped his ass.
Would you have?
But anyway, no, I didn't, because one of the reasons, in all honesty, was that I came out in favor. I was the first candidate to come out in favor of marriage equality. And my campaign manager, after I gave this speech, my campaign manager took me aside. He said, "You lost it. You just lost the election."
Should we take a look? Let's take a look at the clip and come right back.
I think it is a matter of civil and human rights.
It goes beyond the idea of civil union, however, and so a lot of people, find that very upsetting.
30 years ago, a lot of people found the idea of intermarriage, racial intermarriage, upsetting, and there were a lot of state laws against it. But we've come a long way. You are absolutely right. It's not necessarily a popular position, but my view is, what is a campaign all about, if not at least staking some positions that you believe in that may not be popular, but that's you want to educate the public about things that you think are important.
Well,
that was tremendous. And you basically said, look, we are going to look back on this. Like, are you kidding me? Why were we even talking about this?
Well, because the court, going back to the theme of this session here, our Klatch, the court, particularly Clarence Thomas, has threatened in the same Dobbs decision that all of these rights, equal marriage rights, could be thrown out. I mean, it's all up in the air now.
Yeah, I know. And who's pushing that? It's Alito and Thomas?
Well, Alito and Thomas, but also Gorsuch. I mean, you can't count on anything anymore because once they eroded and reversed a woman's right over her body and to make a decision over abortion, the same logic could be used to reverse all of these other.
It makes me so angry. I actually have a physical reaction when we talk about it.
Well, I think it makes a lot of men angry too. This is not just a woman's issue.
Right. It shouldn't be.
And rights are on the table in this election.
Yep.
These intimate rights, these rights of marriage equality and what you do with your body and how people live in terms of the most basic freedoms we can talk about. I mean, these conservatives for years have been saying government should not intrude on what they're saying, government should not intrude on the private sector.
Yep.
But what about intruding on people, on people's intimate private lives?
I know.
And that's what's really at stake. Anyway,
Well, good for you fighting the fight.
well,
22 years ago.
I was young and I didn't know better.
I feel like you still fight the fight.
Well, you do too. You do too. And here's to the fight. Here's to you,
Together.
Heather. Thank you. And thank all of you for joining us. We will see you next Saturday.